Hello and welcome to episode 203 of the Book Binge, where today we're doing a top 5 list where I'm talking about some of the classics that I'm going to be reading next year. This isn't like my last handful of top X number of classics videos, mostly just top 10 classics I want to read videos. You'll see a couple of those books on this list, but this one is more specific, and of course, as the title and what I just said stated, these are books that I'm going to be reading in 2025, or almost all of these are books I'm going to be reading in 2025. We'll talk about that disclaimer there in just a little bit. It's kind of cheating that I have this video coming out, as I'm going to have a whole 2025 TBR video coming in a couple of weeks, but I think this is fine because I've made several of these classic specific videos at this point, and just felt like talking about the ones that I am going to be reading even in the midst of that TBR video, where it's more like a rough outline of what I hope to read over the course of the year, where things can change. These are like more or less set in stone. I'm going to read these because I want to and because I can. So that is basically what's going down. I'm actually buckling down, hard scheduled a few of these. I know where they're going to fit. I basically permanent ink this video is going to be. So if any of you wants to join for any of these, since I'm announcing them a little bit ahead of time, I'd be happy to see you discuss them in the comments of my Fortnite on the Isle videos or something whenever I get around to them. Pay attention to the monthly reading wrap up and TBR videos for when I'm going to be reading them. Of course, watch the 2025 TBR video a little bit later this month in December when I go over what my general plans are for next year. But without further ado, let's talk about the honorable mentions on this list. Of course, I'm including honorable mentions specifically because I have them scheduled for 2025 and intend to read them in 2025, but these two books are also the most likely books in my entire general TBR to be pushed into 2026. Because they're at the very end of the year. I have these scheduled for December because there's a good chance I won't be able to get to them earlier, which means that if my schedule shifts to any significant degree because of some other books and a new release that I'm looking forward to, these are the ones that are probably going to be like, okay, I'll just read these in 2026 instead, kind of thing. So the first honorable mention is going to be Notre Dame de Paris by Victor Hugo, otherwise known as The Hunchback of Notre Dame, which is one that I'm looking forward to because Les Miserables by Victor Hugo is a favorite book of mine. I believe it's tied still with Ashes of Man for my number one book of all time. So I really just wanted to read another book by Hugo at some point in the future. If this is even half as good as Les Mis was, I'll still love it dearly. And I'm greatly looking forward to it. The fact that it is like significantly less than half as long should be a little bit helpful in that regard. I won't be spending literally every day of a single month trying to read it and barely managing to finish it in that period of time. But yeah, that is one that I'm looking forward to. I hope to read it in 2025, might be 2026 instead. Similarly, another author that I've read a couple of books from and really enjoyed is Leo Tolstoy. This is Resurrection by said author. I've read War and Peace and Anna Karenina, Tolstoy's other two novels, and they were both very good, both 5-star reads. I really enjoy both of them for their own reasons and in their own ways. I hadn't actually realized when I was reading either one of those. I think it was only like shortly before I read Anna Karenina, maybe even had been after I read it, that I discovered that Resurrection even existed in the first place. It seems this one doesn't get nearly as much acclaim as the other two. Maybe that's because it's a little bit messier, maybe it's a little bit worse, or not as good, or whatever. But I don't really care. Just reading the concept of what this one is about has me pretty confident that it could be my favorite. It could also be my least favorite if it's not executed well, but if it is executed well, this could be my favorite of Tolstoy's novels. For that reason, I'm very excited to read it. And because, if a man only has 3 novels and they're even anywhere near as good, even if this one's anywhere near as good as the other two, then like Tolstoy will be a favorite author of mine. It's just kind of one of those things. Those other 2 books are great. Read The Death of Ivan Ilyich as well, the novella. That was pretty good. I want to read some more of his short fiction. But first, I want to get to that novel. Again, I have it scheduled for 2025, but good chance it gets pushed into 2026. So those are honorable mentions for that reason. But now we're going to move into the actual top 5 itself, and 5 books that I am going to read in 2025. I mean, if there's any one of these that could be pushed back or moved into 2026, it's this one right here in 5th place. But I'm going to try my absolute hardest to make sure all 5 of these get read over the course of the year. Number 5, as I was just hinting at, is one that I've actually had on my bucket list for a good long while. This is Ivanhoe by Sir Walter Scott. Longtime interest. I definitely love medieval vibe and history, that kind of stuff. There was a point several years back in like middle school where I was starting to read a lot of historical English books set in certain medieval time periods, just because I had interest in that kind of stuff, and never really finished any of them because a lot of books set in those times are a little bit more complicated than your average 5th or 6th grader is going to be capable or willing to read. This book is definitely no different on account of how old it is, but I have tried to start this one a couple of times in the past, especially like 6th grade. I can remember reading the first few chapters. Don't remember anything of those first few chapters, but yeah, greatly looking forward to this one. I believe I have this one tentatively scheduled for November of next year, so it's going to be a little bit later in the year, but one that I'm really looking forward to getting to, and I really just hope to enjoy it even half as much as kind of my hype has led me to assume that I might. Number 4 on this list is, well, the first of a trend for all 4 of these books that we're going to be talking about here, in that they're books that were part of monthly classics read-along stuff going on in Mike's book reviews for a good long while. Books that I wanted to be able to read with the read-along at the time that they were being read, but schedule or something else forced me to not do that. This one was largely forced out of its place because of how long it is. That is Cervantes's Don Quixote, which is a pretty chunky book, and one that I really got back to like a couple of months ago and was like, I really want to read that book right now, and like I had to really resist starting it right then and there. So I definitely want to get to this one at some point in 2025. Of course, I believe I have it scheduled right now for the summer of 2025, maybe even the same 2 months it was originally scheduled for back in 2023 when the read along had it scheduled in there. Like I said, summer 2023, missed the read along for it. Knew I wouldn't be able to at the time. I'm going to come back around to it now this upcoming summer. It will be my primary read for a couple of months there, where I read part 1 in 1 month and part 2 in the next month. So right about 500 pages each month, which will be pretty exciting. Looking forward to that for sure. One of my more anticipated classics at this point. I have a lot of friends who love it, so I have no reason to think that I won't as well. Number 3 on this list is the book that I believe was read right after Don Quixote. I might be remembering that wrong, but it was September 2023 was originally when this was in the monthly classics read along. This is The Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas, and length was another large contributing factor to my not being able to read it at the time, because I already had my schedule overfilled for a couple of reasons and was like, man, I really want to read it. I really wish I could join for that, but I just won't be able to. And I'm going to circle back to this one this year. I forget exactly where in the timeline this one is falling. I believe it's in the spring. It might be early summer. Again, I forget off the top of my head, but this is one that I'm going to circle back to. And I hope to enjoy anywhere near to as much as I enjoyed Count of Monte Cristo, which was also written by Dumas. Given the tonal reputation of this, I think it'll be a super quick and fun read. If it is anywhere near as quick as Count of Monte Cristo, which I believe it ought to be because of the way that Dumas wrote, this ought to actually be pretty doable to do this year. Number 2 is a little bit of a change of pace for this video, in that instead of being a novel like all of the rest of the books on this list is, this is epic poetry, and one that has been on my backlog nearly the longest actually for the list, but not quite. Nearly, but not quite. I read the Iliad and the Odyssey by Homer in September and October of 2022, so over 2 years ago at this point. Really kind of crazy to think about it that way. I intended to read the Aeneid very shortly afterwards, or at the very least circle back to it pretty quickly. and that obviously never really happened to that degree. This will be the first one that I actually get to in the new year. I think I have this one scheduled for January, so this is going to be the first one of these books that I actually circle back around to, and I'm very excited for it. It's been a long time since I've read some of this epic poetry after how much I loved the Iliad and the Odyssey, and like I kind of want to reread those right now. Actually, they're just so good. I have every reason to believe that I'll enjoy the Aeneid. I just hope that I enjoy Robert Fagel's translation of this as much as I enjoyed the Peter Green translations of the other two, because I did not read the Fagels for either Iliad or the Odyssey. But yeah, that one is going to be read very soon, and I'm very excited for. Next up is going to be, I believe, the second classic that I'm going to be reading in 2025, and that is the one that has been on the backlog to circle back around to for the longest, not just since sometime after October 2022 when I wanted to read the Aeneid like in November or December or something. This is since October of 2022. So at this point, getting pretty close to 2.5 years since the first monthly classic I missed, since that was started in February of 2022. A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, one that a lot of people loved, one that a lot of my friends really enjoyed for that read along, and one that I'm very, very sad to have missed at the time of the read along. I enjoyed A Christmas Carol a lot when I read that in December of 2022, and I always wanted to read a little bit more Dickens, and in that time, since I missed A Tale of Two Cities, this has been the primary one that I've wanted to circle back around to. I'm finally going to make do on that promise, Reen. Thank you for your patience. I'm going to read this. I believe it's going to be in March of 2025 or somewhere thereabouts. I'm very much looking forward to it, and I hope to enjoy it as much as I did A Christmas Carol, or potentially even more. I know people say it starts off a little bit slower, but that it really pays off. Either way, I just hope to really enjoy it, and I hope it pays off after how much time it's been since I initially intended to read it, but missed it because that month had 2 classics for some reason. So cool. If any of these sound like fun read-alongs or buddy reads or something like that, give me a shout. Let me know. Friendos, all you friends of mine who maybe watch this video, I'd love to have you along for a couple of these as well, assuming you haven't already read half of them, because some of my friends have read most of, if not all of these, because of the monthly read-along. But if any of you have also, like me, missed them or skipped them, or if you want to read Ivanhoe with me, because that wasn't part of the read-along, definitely shout out some interest. And even for the honorable mentions, maybe we'll schedule a time specifically in 2026 for those to make life easier for us. Either way, hit me up and let's schedule a couple buddy reads for some of these classics. I'm looking forward to all these, and I hope that some other people are looking forward to hearing my thoughts. Next Tuesday is going to be another review for something that is not classic related. It's going to be The Terminal Man by Michael Crichton. So whether you stick around and check out that video or not, I appreciate you for watching this video. I'll be back in the next one, and I hope to see you there.